everyone. Welcome back inside Centura Hall Training Center for another episode of Broncos Now. As always, I'm your host, Sydney Jones, and coming up on today's episode, today marked the final day of open practices here at Broncos camp. We'll hear from head coach Sean Payton as he detailed Russell Wilson's progress from the start of camp to now and what he expects from this offense on Saturday in their second preseason game. All that and more coming up. Today was the final open practice of training camp here at Centura Hall Training Center, and head coach Sean Payton detailed what he hopes to see from the offense this weekend versus the 49ers.
You want to see the execution. You want to see a flow and a rhythm to the game, and ultimately you want to see touchdowns. I mean, that's the main objective when you're playing on offense. A little bit better in protection. Just a lot of the details that we looked at from a week ago.
Head coach Sean Payton said the first-team offense will play about 20 to 24 snaps in Saturday's game and put an emphasis on how important winning this game will be on Saturday.
It does matter. And it's a mindset, and it's, now you have to be able to get the evaluations done, but it would have been a better feeling last week, if we had won that game, and I probably would have been a little cheerier in the post-game presser. So I think it matters.
We heard from rookie wide receiver Marvin Mims and outside linebacker Randy Gregory for the first time this camp on Thursday, and they both talked about how they're looking forward to playing in Saturday's preseason game.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited, to be able to go out there with the guys. Sitting on the sideline, watching last week, it's kind of got a little taste in my mouth of it, but, just being out there with them, all this practicing we've been doing, actually go out there and do it, it'll be a lot of fun.
I'm still in the process of, getting my legs under me, working on the little nuances of the rush, my approach, my game plan, things like that. Stuff that you always work on, whether it's in the game or on the field. So anytime I get a chance to go out there and get a few snaps, it's good.
Marvin Mims also talked about what it's been like learning Sean Payton's system and how he's leaned on Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy this camp.
Adjusting to the speed of the game, everyone out there is smart. It's a whole other ball game than college. So basically just adjusting to the little things, I'd say. Getting more in touch with the playbook here in the huddle, getting out, getting set, seeing your keys. That's something I've grown on in the past week and a half. Our receiver room, they're very, very communicative. We talk all the times about different looks. Coach Colbert, he played receiver too in the NFL, so just having him in there is a big help also. So it's just a lot of talking about different looks, why a guy did this versus that, and how you should beat this technique versus that technique. It's really helpful.
And for Randy Gregory, his main focus this season is prioritizing his mental health as he realizes how it affects his game.
That's a 24-hour, if anyone that knows my history knows that, mental health is a big thing for me. Not just surface level, but, obviously getting better in the game and, doing things that way. So it's a constant battle that not only me, but I'm sure other guys are doing where, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of plays, 70 plays in a game, and not every single one is going to be perfect.
And as the Broncos wrapped up their open practices for training camp today, head coach Sean Payton detailed the growth that he's seen from Russell Wilson since the start of camp.
Man, his movement skills have been impressive. So his off-schedule plays, every practice, you see an example, one or two, and it really forces the receivers then to get in concert. If you're not open in the initial route progression and the pocket moves one way, you got to move with it. His location's been really good. I think the last week and a half, 2 weeks have been really impressive.
Now joining me here inside the Broncos podcast studio is Broncos lead writer Eric Delala. Eric, open training camp practices are in the books. Today was the last day for Broncos country to be out here at practice. But overall, Eric, how do you feel like the team did this training camp?
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of good work. Obviously, very different than last year, last few years. They got after it, right? They wore full pads a lot. Mm-hmm. They did a lot of conditioning post-practice. They worked pretty hard to get ready for this upcoming season. I thought you saw progress, especially from the offense.
For sure.
Over the last few weeks. This last week or so, things started to really click for Russell Wilson and that group. The defense dealing with some injuries, obviously, in the secondary. You hope to get those guys back healthy. We haven't been given any indication that it's something serious or long-term for any of those guys. Mm-hmm. But you like to see them get healthy. But I think it was good work, and I think this team is in a better place than they were. Now, Sean Payton was asked about this and said, listen, when you ask a coach, he's never going to say he's completely happy, you know, and that there's always work to be done. Mm-hmm. And so the Broncos, they're not done getting ready for this season, obviously, right? And the open practices might be over, but Sean Payton said for this team, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. He was kind of joking a little bit, but they're going to work next week. There's joint practices against the Rams coming up. I mean, this team still has a lot to do to get ready for the Las Vegas Raiders on September 10th. We've heard Sean Payton call it a race. We've heard him talk about the work that still needs to be done. So some valuable work here over training camp and 16, 17 open practices or total practices. 12 open, but yeah, there's still a lot more to be done.
Eric, you mentioned just the progress you've seen from this offense, specifically for Russell. How have you seen him really improve since the start of camp?
Yeah, I mean, I think just naturally, right? There's going to be a better understanding of the system. You're going to feel more comfortable.
Right.
Sid, we sat here weeks ago and told everybody to just relax a little bit.
That's
because
true. You were right.
Our good friends in the media, and we respect all of them, but there was this, there's a natural inclination when you watch practice each day to overreact a little bit, right? And you've got to take it as a whole. And even this is not a big enough sample size just from training camp. We're going to have to wait till the games get here and all that. But you've seen him become more comfortable. You've seen the timing get a little bit better, I think, be more decisive in the pocket, get rid of the ball a little bit quicker. All those things have happened. We've seen Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy make plays for him, which always helps. And listen, it's going to be a work in progress, but I do think you've seen strides being made. Russell himself just said the other day, he's more comfortable than he was at the start of training camp, and that's natural.
Right.
I think it's just time on task and the fact that the more snaps you take, the more reps you take, you're going to be more comfortable. Excited to see how it translates to San Francisco this weekend and see, can you improve on what the Broncos did against Arizona? Obviously took a few drives to get going. Can you parlay some of this success here in training camp to the field on Saturday?
Eric, looking ahead to San Francisco this week, and I know head coach Sean Payton talked about Javonte Williams and, what we should expect from him. And he said he wants to see about 3 to 4 carries from him. Nothing crazy. I mean, not like 20 plays he's going to be out there or anything like that.
Right, yeah. The starting offense, we expect 20 to 24 plays is what Sean Payton said, which really is not that much more than they played, obviously, against the Cardinals. I think 20 snaps for Russell Wilson. So just a few more. So maybe it's 4 drives, maybe it's one more drive, and then they play a whole half or something like that. We'll have to see how the snap count plays out.
For sure.
But yeah, with Javonte Williams, closer to 10 to 12 plays. He said 3 to 4 carries, which, is not an insignificant amount. That's if he's only playing 10 to 12 snaps. Said maybe a pass out of the backfield. If he gets a chance to work in pass protection, great. If not, it sounds like Sean Payton's comfortable with what both he and Samaje Perine can do in pass protection. I mean, it's part about knocking the rust off and getting back out there and all that, but it's also, Sean Payton talked about the mental side of things of just getting back into it and being ready to go so that, it doesn't sound like, based on what Sean Payton has said, that the starters will see much, if any, action against the Rams in week 3. So, this is the chance to test things out before kind of a lengthy break in game action before you get to the opener against the Raiders.
Definitely. And another guy who we'll see out there on Saturday is wide receiver Marvin Mims.
Yep.
Haven't really, heard from him much training camp. He started training camp with that hamstring injury. But Sean Payton said today that, he'll be out there on Saturday, and he's had a really great week of practice too. Yeah,
good week of practice, catching up. He said he doesn't feel, Marvin Mims talked and said he doesn't feel behind in anything.
Right.
He's developing that connection with Russell Wilson. We've seen him make a few plays. I'm sure he's excited to get out there, and he's got that speed that is going to change what this Broncos offense can do. I mean, listen, we saw the last couple of years when KJ Hamler was healthy, what speed could do. And what, you think of that, the Panthers game, I think back in 2020, you think of what he was able to do against the Jaguars last year, just how much speed tests the defense, challenges safeties over the top, that sort of thing. Right. Well, now Marvin Mims becomes that guy that's the kind of the speed element. And, he's kind of a bigger guy too. He's built a little more solidly, maybe could contribute in the return game as well. He's going to be able to do a lot of different things, been getting some reps up there with Russ and is building that connection. So it should be interesting to see how much he does out there against the 49ers, but certainly a guy that if he can make an impact with his speed, it could really change what this Broncos offense looks like. For sure. I think a lot of our fans are really intrigued to see what he can do and to see him out there for the first time. Eric, we heard from Randy Gregory as well, outside linebacker Randy Gregory. It was great to hear from him. It was interesting hearing him talk about Frank Clark too, and how
him coming in, how highly he thinks of Frank Clark and how much he's learned from him already. And I think that's going to be a really fun duo to watch this year.
Yeah, he kind of chuckled a little bit when asked what they were capable of together. He said a lot, and he wasn't going to go into sack numbers or anything like that. But listen, if those two guys are healthy and they're opposite each other, and a defense can only choose to double team one of them, or maybe you've got to single up on both sides, they're going to have a chance to get after the quarterback. Hopefully, the offense gives this defense a lead, and they're able to kind of pin their ears back a little bit. But that'll be a good duo, and then you've got Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper behind them. Good second wave.
Yeah.
Aaron Browning, if and when he comes back from injury. But Sid, even more than that, what stood out to me about Randy is just, he obviously wants to contribute. And from a physical standpoint, that means being on the field. He talked about his offseason routine to make sure that he can stay healthy. But he brought up the mental side of things. And we've heard Randy be open before about mental health and those sorts of things. But it was interesting to me to hear him say, listen, I know I've got to be better kind of from a mental standpoint, too, of not getting frustrated. It was a tough year last year with injuries and the way the season went. And, he was asked about, joint practices next week. Yeah. You like to mix it up a little bit. And he said one of his focuses is that he's going to try to be more, really focused on being better from that side of things, too. And if he can pair that with the physical traits we know he has and can stay on the field, that's we know how good Randy is, right, when he's out there those first 100%. Couple of weeks. Seattle, San Francisco, he was really, really good. Really so hoping we see more of that.
Yeah, me too. And in other news, Eric, the team just announced that they will be wearing their white helmets for Week 5 versus the Jets and then Week 16 versus the Patriots. So that's exciting, something to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of a fun thing. I mean, certainly the Christmas Eve game, you think of snow, and so the white helmet's very cool. And then Week 5, already, I'm sure a lot of that's true. Yeah, already a lot of attention on Week 5 in that game with the Jets. This just kind of adds another element to it.
For sure. A lot more things to look forward to, Eric. The team will head off to San Francisco tomorrow, so we'll be out there for Saturday's preseason game.
I'm excited.
Thanks for coming on the show.
You got it, Sid.
Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Broncos Now. Broncos Country, thanks so much for tuning in. There will not be an episode tomorrow as we are flying to San Francisco for that second preseason game, but I'll meet you right back here on Monday for another episode.